So this is a light that ThruNite did send over to me as a free promotional product. Do appreciate them sending me all these flashlights. I do have quite the collection. I'll do a comparison of them all at some point. I actually have every one that I've ever reviewed except for the 11,000 lumen one, because they ended up sending me the 16,000 lumen floodlight, and I had a friend who really wanted one of those powerful lights. So I ended up selling that 11,000 lumen for 80 bucks. So less than half its new retail cost, and he was pretty stoked about that. Anyway, Catus Maximus here, this time with a little review of the ThruNite Archer Pro. This is a little 1000 lumen max on turbo flashlight using a Cree bulb. It is one of the more modern units. It's pretty simple, just comes in a basic box, little plastic tray, obligatory silica gel. It is USB-C charging. Getting to the specs here, it's a 14500 lithium-ion base battery, so that's kind of like in between a AAA and a AA. The big deal is, I believe the battery is technically replaceable, but this flashlight is not disassemblable. It doesn't come with any O-rings. This tail cap, even though it may actually unscrew, is like thread Loctited. And how it's actually assembled is, if you look, you can just see these three little notches. You'd have to custom grind a socket or something in order to unscrew the whole thing. It's set up like that because the way it charges is you have this collar here, which is threaded, and then you unthread it, and that exposes the USB-C port. There is a little charging LED right there. As you can see, there's kind of a narrow gap around that USB-C port, so some cables will fit, some cables won't. And it's something to watch out for, like this Duracell cable here. It's actually been a reliable cable for me. Come on, get in there. This will fit, but you can see just barely. But something like this, which is a real chungus USB 3.0 compatible USB-C cable, this actually will not fit. The plastic's just a little bit too wide. So something to be aware of. Other than that, it's a neat little flashlight. It does have an O-ring on top here. You can feel the resistance to give it its waterproofing, but that O-ring is not replaceable at all because you can't get access to it. I like the idea that since this is just a small little flashlight, about a little bit larger than my index finger, maybe a little bit larger than even my middle finger there, carried around in the pocket. They're probably worried about a little port flap just end up tearing off, so they decided to do it this way. I think it's okay, except for what my concern is you can see how thin this collar is, and being just a pocket flashlight, pretty easy to drop and get dinged up, and I worry about difficulty getting this to unthread, you know, when it gets dented. Although it does provide like an extra layer, so you'd be less likely to break the glass. As we can see, it does have a coated glass, semi-orange peel, so it has kind of a combination between a spot and a flood. It's not too bad. The belt clip is a bi-directional belt clip, but you can't put the belt clip up on the upper portion of the flashlight. It only goes right here, so you would have to carry it like this. At least it would fit pretty deep in the pocket. It does have a lockout, so if you press the button just quickly, it just gives you kind of a quick flash. You have to press and hold, and then it will blink. But at least it does have a lockout. You can turn it on and then press and hold for continuously variable, and it'll blink, and you can press and hold again, and it'll blink again down at low, and of course double press for turbo. Definitely pretty powerful in turbo mode. We'll go outside and look at the beam in just a second here and finish up. Anyway, that's what they're advertising. It does get pretty hot, so it will go down to around 200 lumens, so you only get like a minute and a half at full turbo. Drop down to 200 lumens for about 2.5 hours. On high, surprisingly enough, there's different ramps between when it's on turbo or when you have it on max brightness. Apparently it's 478 lumens on high, and it will still overheat, but it will drop down to 200 lumens, and you get a little bit more runtime just because Not as much as soaked up from the maximum turbo. And of course, the Firefly mode, 15 days, day and a half on day and 3/4 on very low, which you can barely see. And then the strobe is only 92 lumens, so not super great. They do talk about the 14500 battery, 1000 milliamp hour. It's just a shame that it's effectively impossible to replace on this unit. So it's not pitch dark here. My usual area is not available. There it is. That's on low. We'll vary it up to its high. And for 500 lumens, you can actually see that it's not too bad. It actually has a pretty decent throw. And you can see the combination. You can see, if we look at the sidewalk here, you can see a little bit of blue fringing. This is a neutral white, so you know, something like 3500K color temperature, but a little bit of fringing, but it's not too bad. And there's our turbo. As you can see, the turbo is really not too bad. So for a little pocket flashlight, it certainly gets pretty bright. But the reality is, right about there is where it's going to run for its 2.5 hours of continuous run time, which is reasonably bright for a small flashlight. And it's nice to have the option to have just a whole bunch more extra lumens at this 500 lumen level. At least you're getting a couple 3 minutes before it overheats, versus a full turbo, which is just to light up some stuff for a minute or something like that. Anyway, so there you have it. It's pretty expensive. I forgot to mention in the beginning, 35 bucks on sale on Amazon, normally like 40 bucks. Pretty expensive for a 14500 flashlight. I mean, it is bright, 1000 lumens peak. But it does use up its little 14500 battery pretty quickly, and it's disappointing that you can't take it apart to have like an extra battery that you can pop in there. I think it's just a bit expensive, but it is a compact little USB rechargeable flashlight. Do appreciate ThruNite sending this to me. I think I also forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video, but I'll re-edit that in. But, you know, for the price, these little flashlights are expensive. The ThruNites are, you know, the premium brands are premium for a reason. It is a metal button switch. That is not a rubber switch, so that ought to last a halfway decent amount of time, although there is going to be a rubber stopper inside there. Really, I think that as far as the biggest concern really is this little twist collar here getting dinged up and dented through use, and maybe this upper O-ring eventually failing and allowing water in if you're somebody who actually does get these pretty wet. Anyway, really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out.